All right, let's dive into one of the most critical decisions you can make in system design: stateless versus stateful. Honestly, this choice shapes everything: how your system scales, how it performs, and maybe most importantly, how it breaks. So yeah, it's a big deal.
You've heard this a million times, right? If you've ever been in a design review with a senior engineer, I guarantee this phrase has come up. Make it stateless. It's like the first commandment of modern cloud-native architecture.
And look, there's a really good reason for that. When you're building for the cloud and you're thinking about massive scale and making sure your system doesn't fall over, stateless is the default answer. It's the right call, like 90% of the time.
So what does stateless actually feel like? Well, think of a hotel. You check into a room, you use it, and you check out. When the next guest arrives, the hotel staff has completely reset the room. It has no memory that you were ever there. That's a stateless service. Each request is a brand new guest in a freshly cleaned room. Great for the hotel because any room will do.
Okay, but here's where we get into the really interesting stuff. If that rule is right 90% of the time, what's going on in that other 10%? Because that's where the truly brilliant and sometimes disastrous architectural decisions are made.
And that 10%, that little sliver, well, that's where blindly following the make it stateless mantra can get you into a world of trouble. Understanding this part is what really levels you up from just a coder to a genuine architect.
Because here's the dirty little secret. Statelessness isn't free. Not at all. There's this hidden cost. See, since the service has amnesia, it has to relearn everything about you on every single request. And that means a trip to the database or cache to grab all that context. You pay that round-trip tax over and over and over again.
So, you see, the goal isn't to get rid of state. I mean, that's impossible. Any useful app has state. The real million-dollar question is this: where should that state live? Does it belong in the service itself, in a database, maybe on the client? That's the puzzle we have to solve.
All right, so before we can make that choice, we need to be crystal clear on what we're actually talking about. Let's break down these two models.
So first up, stateless. We've talked about this one. Just think of it as a service with total amnesia. Every time you talk to it, it's like you're a complete stranger. Everything it needs to know has to be packed right into the request itself. And this means absolutely no user sessions stored on the server, no memory tied to a specific connection. It's not keeping track of where you are in some multi-step process. And the upside of all this forgetting, it's incredibly simple, it's resilient. If one server dies, another can pick up the slack instantly, and it can scale like crazy. You see these things literally everywhere. The vast majority of REST APIs are stateless. A little worker that just resizes an image, stateless. A simple login API, you guessed it, it just takes your credentials, checks them, and gives you a token, completely forgetting about the interaction a millisecond later.
And now, for the other side of the coin, stateful. This is the complete opposite. A stateful service remembers you. It keeps track of your conversation. The history of what you've done actually matters for what you're going to do next.
So what kind of stuff is it remembering? Well, all sorts of things. It could be your session data, an open database transaction, a file you're in the middle of uploading. It's all kept live, right there in the server's memory, ready to go.
And there are times when this isn't just a nice to have, it's the only way to build something. You can't build a multiplayer game server that's stateless. It has to know where every player is at all times. Same for a chat application, it needs that persistent connection to work.
Okay, so we've got these two models. One is simple and scales beautifully. The other is wicked fast and enables complex features. So, how on earth do you choose? Let's build a little mental framework.
Here it is. This is the one question you need to ask yourself. It's the ultimate test. If the specific server handling a user's request just, poof, vanished, would that user lose their work, their progress, their connection? If the answer is yes, my friend, you have a stateful service on your hands, and you better plan for that. So here's the fundamental trade-off. Laid bare. With stateless, scaling is a breeze, but you are constantly hammering your database, paying that tax. With stateful, you get lightning-fast, zero latency access to data because it's right there in RAM. But scaling, oh man, scaling is a nightmare of sticky sessions, data replication, and complex failover logic. And you absolutely have to break that stateless rule for things like this. There is just no way to build a responsive online game if you have to hit a database 60 times a second to find out where a player is. It's impossible. The state has to live in memory. The same goes for something like Google Docs, where multiple people are editing at once. Latency is the absolute enemy, and a stateful design is the only weapon that can defeat it.
And that brings us to what I think is the most important idea here.
We've been talking about this like it's a fight, stateless versus stateful. But the best architects know that's the wrong way to look at it. It's not versus, it's and.
Let's just boil it right down. Stateless, that's your ticket to massive scalability. It's how you go from 10 users to 10 million.
And stateful, that's your ticket to new capabilities. It unlocks the kind of performance and rich, real-time features that are just flat out impossible in a purely stateless world.
And this is where it all clicks into place. The best systems don't pick one side. They use both, but they do it intentionally. They might have a massively scalable stateless front door that routes requests to a highly specialized stateful service in the back that handles, say, a live video stream. The point is to be deliberate, not dogmatic.
There's a quote from the source material that just nails this entire idea. It says the worst kind of architecture isn't stateless or stateful, it's confused. And that's the real danger zone. When you think you've built a stateless service, but it's secretly holding on to state somewhere and you haven't planned for it. That's a ticking time bomb.
So I'll leave you with this question. Think about the system you're working on right now. Is it intentionally stateless? Is it intentionally stateful? Or is it maybe just a little bit confused? Figuring that out is the first step to making it truly great.